withdraw. If you are unhappy with that ruling, you know what you must do. If you are unhappy with it. Honorable Chief Whip, you know, we want to proceed with the debate, and the rules require that if you are unhappy, you know what to do. Yes, what are you saying, Honorable Member?
Deputy Speaker.
No, the person speaking is here in front of me.
I wanted to correct the distortion of the meaning of the word umuntu.
Honorable members, can I suggest we do this? And I'm suggesting we please proceed. Honorable Chief Whip of the opposition, I made a ruling on this matter. If you are unhappy with my ruling, please let us know in writing so that it can be addressed properly in the right forums. You know we can do that. Instead of haggling over this matter, now delaying your members' address to the House. I'm appealing to you, basically.
I have the mic. Deputy Speaker, I want my member to finish what he's saying, but I maintain that the level of discourse and the level of debate allows the word sour to be used, and please expect a very strongly worded letter from my office to yours.
I will not, Honorable Chief Whip of the... Can I please appeal to you not to enter the debate? I have made a ruling on this matter. This question of interpretation, I have based my thinking on what I understand was said here. So, Honorable Mpiti, and withdraw first. You have to withdraw first. If you do want to finish, right? So withdraw.
Thank you, Deputy Speaker. I withdraw the word Bamun. Bawik. These commitments, Deputy Speaker, though welcomed, remain just words without substantive action. As it stands, young people spend 1,300 Rand per month looking for jobs in this country. With the cost of living continuing to become more expensive, what comfort, Mr. President, do you have to ensure that these young people are able to find jobs in the near future? Mr. President, we must hold our values and our principles against the hard realities in this nation and see if indeed we are measuring up to the legacy of the forebears and the promise of future generations in this country. It is, Mr. President, the promise of the preamble of the Constitution of the Republic of South Africa. It's the promise that a young person who hopes to find a job and be able to support their families is possible. It's the hope that a small-scale entrepreneur who wants to grow their business will not be stifled by red tape, but will be able to grow their business in this country. It's the hope that young people's talents will not be lost or overlooked, but in fact, they'll be found and preserved and made sure that they grow in whatever career that they choose for themselves. It is about the audacity, Mr. President, to make sure that your words are backed up by action. And indeed, Mr. President, our hopes lie with the decisions that you will make to separate yourself from the RET faction and make sure that you take our country forward. Thank you.
Thank you. Honorable the Deputy Minister of Cooperative Governance and Traditional Affairs, Ms. Tembi Nkadime.
Thank you very much, Honorable Deputy Speaker. His Excellency, the President of the Republic of South Africa, Dr. Cyril Ramaphosa, Deputy President David Dabete Mabuza, the Acting President of SALGA. They can all forget to greet you, but not me. Fellow South Africans, and a good afternoon. Menko Morale Hoko, I wouldn't have articulated the local government legislation better than you have done. But on your vein, allow me to feel honored to put additional words by being afforded this opportunity to address in response to the State of the Nation debate, which President Ramaphosa delivered on the 10th of February, coincidentally, my birthday. Honorable President, Thomas Sankara warned us, and I quote, "It is really a pity that there are observers who view political events like comic strips. There has to be a Zorro and a star." Honorable John Steenhuisen, when it becomes so difficult and complex to comprehend, the star has to be you. You have to dance in the comic show. Your own comic show happening in your mind. Your address, Honorable President, left no words for Honorable John Steenhuisen to say. Instead of just saying, "Kila kaleo," that's my word, and not in agreement, he says, "The script is mine." He reminds me of a young rich boy who has an advantage of having a ball. When he gets beaten in the ground, he takes the ball away from the poor boy and goes back home. Since when can the Democratic Alliance be more democratic than the African National Congress? Since when can the Democratic Alliance advise and lead the revolutionary movement and provide an advice? Since when? Honorable John Steenhuisen, the ANC on its January 8th statement clearly articulated what the president was mandated to do as a party, and that was mainly contained in his State of the Nation address. Honorable Arnolds from the EFF saw nothing, heard nothing. He only sees things that are falling apart. While enjoined by the tenets of the progressive constitution to recognize the fundamental principles of cooperative governance, interdependent, interrelated, distinctive. Admittedly, there are complex issues which you fail to comprehend, and you think the script can only be written by you and be dictated. We have collectively harnessed the public resources behind the common goals within the framework of the district development model. We will give now quality assurance, which is led by the Office of the Premiers, to all the one plans, 39 in total, 10 which are still in the drafting stage, to articulate the drive of delivery at the local government level. eThekwini, for example, is expected to be a key export hub led by Transnet. OR Tambo, together with the Department of Environment, Forestry and Fisheries, has launched a green economy and an ocean economy master plan in March 2020. Where was the one who was speaking before me, not knowing that your funda data? The plan is aimed at aiming and unlocking the full potential of the ocean economy, and it focuses on connecting the proposed small rural beach towns to form a stride of beads to ensure connectivity and accessibility in towns. But to supplement this, we have moved beyond a stature of local government being dysfunctional, moving the 64 municipalities identified by cabinet as dysfunctional, while providing skills, capacity development, and technical support, especially to low, medium capacity municipalities. As we are talking, Honorable President, 153 personnel of engineers, planners have been deployed to those municipalities for support. That is in line with our DDM plan. Recruitment and placement of graduates has already happened. 89 apprentices have been afforded an opportunity in various 89 municipalities. 39 experiential learners have been afforded an opportunity to deal and assist in municipal operations and maintenance. 82 bursaries have been awarded to civil engineer students and town regional planning to deal with spatial planning. 362 municipal officials are afforded an opportunity to refresh their technical skills. But listen, where are they coming from? Sol Plaatje, Midvaal Municipality, Bujanala, Hamahara, the city of Cape Town is a beneficiary. City of Tshwane, where you failed so nicely, is also part. Bapalabora and Matatie.
Yes, what's the point of order?
One, two. Deputy Speaker,
Yes, sir.
is it parliamentary to scream at us? The honorable member must withdraw screaming at us. It's not parliamentary.
Okay,
She's very close to the mic. We can really hear her. It's not parliamentary, particularly when you are a deputy minister, to scream.
Honorable member.
Don't scream.
Honorable member, I would have expected you to understand what the point of order is, and you don't clearly. Proceed.
Thank you very much, Deputy Speaker. Ngomagujo ngosimelane ngompembe kalokotayo. Ngikhuluma ngendlela engifuna ngayo. 48 municipal officials enrolled for the recognition of prior learning. And this leg program targets mainly municipal general workers who are re-engineering the shape of local government from what we have. A general laborer will become a professional. We are targeting them in the area of electrical support, diesel mechanics, and plumbing. Emondlo Abakulusi municipality is already a beneficiary of his waste treatment plant. Ebokwe water in the Zululand district. The distressed Makana municipality from this same team received a dual 3.8-kilometer road. The labor-intensive program methods have been rolled out in KwaZulu-Natal, Umzimvubu in Alfred Nzo, JS Muroka in Mpumalanga, Mogalakwena in Limpopo, and the Honorable President have visited both of these programs. The innovative waste management program is targeted at 45 municipalities, and we have reworked the program of MIC. We now allow municipalities to purchase, plan with MIC, but also provide maintenance. And 154 municipalities and SMMEs have been given support to deal with this program of recycling. And Sakisi is a local municipality. S0NA has been built a buyback center to create jobs using the very same milk fund. Research does indicate to us that, as led by MISTRA, that we have seen an increase in beyond the 2016 local government elections, dealing with the practical expressions of the people voters, which has given us coalitions which are moving from a 27 number of municipalities to close to a 70. But nothing amazes us because MISTRA has warned us. This starts as marriage of convenience. At the end of it all, they become marriage of inconvenience. They are convenient to all those who think they would want to take the ANC out of power by starting their marriage with the sole intention, removing the ANC from power at all costs. Their intention is nowhere from there. No plan, no goals, no vision, no program of action. Stop and go. Can we elect committees? They take 6 months. Can we adopt a budget? They take 6 months. They've already started falling apart in Neguruleni. A statement has been out. They're falling out in Tshwane. From the previous term, Tshwane is one of the municipalities who should have been like Mhlambetin, because you could not even adopt what committees, which by law your budget should have been restrained. You talk about those who are buying at Pick and Pay, you are going to buy at Pick and Pay, just like those ones whose budgets will not be released. So it is very, very wrong to assume that your municipalities are. You talk about abolishing of cadre development. Honorable John Steenhuisen, see, Stellenbosch municipality was fined 750,000 by a court of law. For what? You deployed a matriculant over a colored honors-bearing woman who took you to court and won. We are the best. The ANC does case development, 750,000. Melissa Nell, a matriculant, favored over a honors-bearing in your cadre deployment. How bad? Wait, 4 minutes. So it is untruthful that you don't do that. To deal with the municipal issues, early warning systems together with National Treasury for a provision of early diagnosis and treatment has been dealt with. Our community works program in partnership with NYDA has been made, and we have recruited 100 participants in tourism guide to deliver with Take a Lot in partnership of ensuring that our young people are ignited in getting this. It truly is a time that we all need to appreciate and accept that progress has been made. 105 towns are going to benefit from our small town regeneration program with bankable projects which have already been done. We have taken a setback with regard to local government elections as women. 9,000 2,470 councillors who won, 63% are men and 37% is women. To all of us, we need to be able to say, this must change. To date, the ANC has ensured that 90% of households have access to electricity in 2020. 89.1 households has adequate water. 82.3% of households has access to flushing and pit latrine toilet. 60.5 has access to the removal of waste. On top of all this, the ANC government still offer free basic services, 6,000 kiloliters for free, 50 kilowatts for free. South Africa is much a better place for an African than it was in 1994. Honorable Imam, we didn't get freedom, we fought for it. I thank you very much.
Thank you, honorable member. Honorable Hendricks.
Honorable Deputy Speaker, South Africa signed the ILO Convention on Decent Work, and President Mandela was the first recipient of an award promoting decent work, and Winnie Mandela was the second recipient. So when I hear about the private sector delivering jobs, I hope it will be decent jobs, and not the jobs that we had in apartheid, where we had the DOP system in place, where all the requirements of the ILO will not be met. So those of us who support decent work, we are very skeptical that the private sector will deliver. How can you expect the allies of apartheid to deliver jobs? They don't want to deliver jobs and make African government successful. Honorable Deputy Speaker, the President in his first S0NA address mentioned that it is one of his objectives that every family in South Africa shall have a warm plate of food. President Ramaphosa has delivered and is the first African president to ensure that everyone has a warm plate of food, and it's only going to get better. Your Excellency, our leader, when you call for a revised social compact and consensus within 100 days, the magic potion or the silver bullet is collaboration, working together to uplift all South Africans. But the opposition parties will politic. You've had 2 days of classic politicking, and they will try to derail your programs. Al-Jamaa want our constituency to benefit from the programs, and I want to thank the NEC of the ANC for sending special envoy Jeff Radebi to meet with me. The Al-Jamaa think tank is meeting in Umzinto near Scottsburg on Friday to unpack your programs for implementation. We are also having a workshop organized by Councillor and MPAC Chair Ustad Asghar Khan to brainstorm the first steps to dramatically change some villages in the ROKU district to smart villages, which is part, Honorable President, of your second smart city. We want to see it in Masakeli village in Harding, and Sheikh Said did well. Other villages we are changing to smart cities include the Mapami village, which has an ocean and a forest, and Maputa where we funded 25 villages to attend 2-day CEDA workshops to become compliant for informal business grants. So, Honorable Chair Al-Jamaa submitted a petition to the Speaker on behalf of Mapami village for electricity. Honorable President, let it happen in 100 days. Al-Jamaa is ready to take the first steps in some of South Africa's rural and deep seated villages to change them into smart villages. The presidency and all MPs are in fact invited to join our webinar on Saturday morning via Zoom. So Al-Jamaa must strengthen, and you must listen very carefully, even in a small way, the ANC, because it is the only political party of substance left from our dear liberation movement. Africans will only get their real freedom, be free from poverty, get jobs and live prosperous lives if a strong and resolute ANC governs. This is written in our history and must guide us in our future. I must also bat for my own constituency, Deputy Speaker. We are still waiting patiently for Muslim wives to have their marriage ceremony generate a legal South African marriage certificate. So, Mr. President, get the job done in 100 days. We have two private members' bills, one that will benefit Muslim wives, and the second one, all women seeking improvement to our maintenance laws. Let's get the job done in 100 days. The country's security is now embedded in the presidency, and under your leadership, Al-Jamaa is looking forward to remove the objection of the State Security Agency to grant Palestinians visas on arrival like they give to Zionists from Israel. When Madiba from this very same city hall thanked the international community for their contribution to the anti-apartheid struggle, he obviously did not include apartheid Israel and Friends of Israel and Israel-orientated opposition political parties. Honorable President, we need to speed up the e-visa system because there's 10 million Indonesians that want to come here as tourists, and I've already spoken to the city of Cape Town, which is ready to welcome them. Honorable Deputy Speaker, I want to ask the President not to shake off government's responsibility of study grants to students and leaving them as bait to the banks. It is shameful that after so many years, NAFAS is not performing efficiently. That leaves thousands of students and parents in despair. They fail to reply to students and parents' inquiries, and that neglect is like torture, Mr. President.
Honourable Member, your time
Thank you very much, Honourable Deputy Speaker.
Honourable Minister of Agriculture, Land Reform and Rural Development.
Sekela somlomo yendlu yeshamthetho somlomo wendlu yeshamthetho usihlalo nosekela wakhe bendlu ehlanganisa izifundazwe kanye nohulumeni basemakhaya. Mongameli welizwe Mnumzane Ramaphosa, sekela mongameli Baba uMabuza, malunga hloniphekile endlu yesishamthetho, ngiyanibingelela kule ntambama namhlanje. There are moments in the life of a nation when all certainties are unsettled and new possibilities emerge. In these moments, there is both the prospect of great progress and the risk of reversal. Today, we are faced with such a moment. The path we choose now will determine the course for future generation, close quote. Mr. President, I decided to quote from your speech when tabling the State of the Nation address last Thursday. You reminded us of how, when faced with enormous challenges, we must respond, appreciating that whatever we do and whatever decisions we take today has implications for future generations. In June 2019, when we tabled the State of the Nation address following the provincial and national elections, none of us anticipated the emergence of COVID-19 in the following year and the devastation it would cause to human life and economies across the world. This challenge called for leadership and consensus on the response measures in our society to save lives and livelihoods. Khumbula ke Mongameli, isithukuthunku senja siphelela ebuyeni. Lokho kusho ukuthi noma wenze into enhle kwesinye isikhathi ayibongwa. Indeed, the old certainties were unsettled. New possibilities emerged as we build the nation from the scourge of COVID-19. The use of ICT and reorganization of work intensified in our country, in our continent, and across the world. Despite COVID-19, we had to continue to save lives and livelihoods. In solidarity with one another, we contributed financial and non-financial resources to Solidarity Fund in order to save lives and livelihoods. The consultations you undertook with political parties here in this legislature, the civil society, and coordination among spheres of government showed possibilities of how the nation can work together to address its challenges. Mongameli, khumbula, inkonjane yakhela ngodaka. Kusho ukuthi noma bekugxeka, bekhuluma, bekungcifa, kodwa ungaphela amandla, you must stay the course. Mr. President, the social compact you spoke about is the heart of our economic recovery efforts. The development of master plans, which you mentioned here, across various sectors of our economy, brings together industry-specific relevant stakeholders to agree on what is needed to grow our economy inclusively, particularly on how we can prioritize employment in the scourge of unemployment that face our country. The Agriculture and Agro-Processing Master Plan, which we will conclude by March 2022, working with business and organized agriculture as well as our workers, has identified specific issues that we need to address if this sector has to grow inclusively and boast employment opportunities in rural and urban South Africa. We must appreciate that in society of higher poverty levels, inequality and low growth, getting agriculture going is critical for various reasons. Some of these I will highlight. Growth in agriculture is 2 to 3 times more effective at reducing poverty than an equivalent amount of growth generated outside agriculture. Secondly, the advantage of agriculture over non-agriculture in reducing poverty is largest to the poorest in society and ultimately disappears as countries become richer. Third, the growth in agriculture reduces poverty. It can also extend to other welfare outcomes such as food security. Among various interventions we will focus on in the coming year is to deal with the issues of animal diseases, which is critical for human health and safe meat for our consumers. The team of experts that we've brought together, including industry, academia, and the department, has already given us preliminary reports on areas of improvement in our animal health system. The possibility of partnerships on animal vaccine development without compromising the state capacity, such as the Ondersteport Biological Products Factory, is critical. Babu Masipa, kuthiwa ngesizulu, ungaboyibambi inhlwa ivele ngekhanda. Kushiwo lokho ngoba uma ukhuluma into ungakabi nobuqiniseko bayo, kungenzeka ube ukhuluma mampunge. I just want to address the issue you have raised on 2 counts. One, the matter you have raised with Honorable Squatcher, where you say he has actually shown disregard of supporting farmers. You did not mention the farmer, neither did you give him an opportunity to respond. Whereas you are a member of the portfolio committee, I think that is is not in order. Secondly, with regards to the issue of Ondersteport biological products, as well as OVI. You know very well, we reported in Parliament that when the GMP facility was not concluded, we had to undertake an investigation to see what was the problem. We said we will come back to Parliament on the decisions that we needed to take following the investigation. And some of that investigation, it's what led to Mr. Dung, who was the CEO of that company, to actually undergo disciplinary hearing, and thereby he chose to leave. And I don't think it is really honest for you to come in this Parliament and raise the issues in the manner that you have. With regards to the OVI, there has been challenges of stealing the intellectual property of the Agricultural Research Council. And we have said clearly that when we have the challenges of vaccine, we will work with the private sector to address the issues of the livestock industry. We've dealt with this matter with the Animal Red Meat Forum as well as the Animal Health Forum. So to come here and say as government, we actually are not taking these matters seriously cannot be far from the truth. Honorable members, our agricultural sector is export-oriented. We export about half of what we produce in value terms. In 2021, amid challenges at our ports and unrest in the province of KwaZulu-Natal and Gauteng, government, business and labor managed to work collaboratively to ensure the continuous flow of the export products. The statistics we have for the first 11 months of 2021 show that South Africa's agricultural export reached a record of $11.5 billion. This speaks to the large agricultural sector production of the past year and the social compact approach to facilitating export. Mr. President, you spoke of the ports of infrastructure, which is critical for agriculture, mining, manufacturing, and automobile industry. We are engaging with Transnet together with organized agriculture to respond to the near-term congestion challenges and long-term strategic intervention that boost the efficiency of our ports. In our endeavors to assist farmers produce transportation challenges, we concluded in Mkhuze rail siding to support small-scale farmers for the transportation of their sugarcane by rail to Felixton Mill. This project is assisting about 1,900 Makhathini small-scale sugarcane farmers who are struggling to transport their produce after Tonga Tulet stopped the transportation subsidy. Working with Transnet and this commodity development organization, we made a good stride in completing a road to rail initiative to this farmer. Honorable members, I've raised some of the positive things that have been happening in the industry. However, it is also important for us to raise some of the challenges. Some of these challenges relate to the issue of access to land by black farmers. It also relates to access to land for human settlement in order for us to deal with the spatial planning that still remains, the architect of apartheid. We've agreed, and as Honorable Masondo mentioned here yesterday, that we will work collaboratively across government in order to make sure that we fast-track land reform. We will continue to make sure that land reform is driven within the confines of our legislation and our constitution. We've commenced the process of engaging our traditional leaders and their communities on ways in which we can unlock the development opportunities in their areas while at the same time ensuring that customary tenure systems are legally secure. Our intention to hold the Land Summit last year may have been delayed. However, provincial consultations that was led by Deputy Minister Skwatsha working with Deputy Minister Popela have enabled us to get necessary inputs from traditional leaders and their communities on how best we can conclude this matter. Nina basebukhosini amakhosi endabuko, siyabonga ukuthi nina bekunene nisibeketele sakwati kusebenzisana safakana imlomo kude kuthi kuphuhliseka kwetindzawo tasemakhaya kube indlela lokuthatha imiphakathi nabaholi babo sihlangene nohulumeni ukuya phambili. Ngiyati ukuthi labanye benu nicelile umhlangano nasekela mongameli ukuthi sike sifakane imlomo ngaletinye inkinga letiphethe baholi bendabuko kanye nemiphakathi. Lokho kutosita ukuthi kusimamise indlela yokusebenzisana yona lendlela lobuyisho mongameli mawukhuluma lapha ngolwesine loledlule. Mr. President, despite the challenges of COVID-19 pandemic, the commitments you made in 2020 and 21 have been achieved and some are nearing completion. You announced in 2020 that government will release 700,000 hectares of agricultural land to individuals and communities. I want to report to this House, Mr. President, that a majority of these hectares have actually been transferred to communities. However, there are challenges in areas of Gwaju farms that require speedy resolution. I wish to thank the Portfolio Committee led by the Chairperson, Honorable Mandela, for the oversight in Gwaju early this month. They saw for themselves the challenges that we are facing, and I hope collectively we will be able to find a lasting solution to this matter. Public Works have released land for restitution and agriculture, as we saw in Tafelkop farms, which were in the hands of the state, handed over to small farmers last year. Trunka land, a land that was actually designated by the then tricameral parliament for colored communities in Northern and Western Cape, have also been released, and the outstanding land transfers will continue to be prioritized. I want to say here, Malunga DA, it is important to appreciate that collective work can actually help all of us to grow. In Matsikama, in the Western Cape, where Trunka land had been released, we actually as national government put the bulk water infrastructure to assist those farmers. And the Western Cape Department of Agriculture supported with production and other facilities to ensure that those farmers succeed. So you know, as well as I do, that working together we can do more. Communal land identified for development by traditional leaders and their communities have been released as per application to the ministers for development. Ngiyabonga kakhulu, ngithembe ukuthi lokhu lesikhulumayo nawe mongameli uma uthi masisebenzise ngokubambisana sidokwenda kuya embili. Ngiyabonga.
Honorable Shivambo.
No, thank you very much, Speaker and Deputy President. I only acknowledge people who are here. I don't know why Parliament engages in wasteful expenditure and hire imbongi for the accompanying of the President, because there's plenty of them here. One has just left this podium now. So, Kumbula President. It can easily be a poem which can be utilized to accompany the President whenever he comes for SONA debates. I want to take this opportunity to again congratulate the commissars and the ground forces of the EFF who have brought the ANC below 50% in the 2021 local government elections. And specifically, I appreciate the ground forces in KwaZulu-Natal and Gauteng, where we have decisively dealt with the former liberation movement because it was misrepresenting our people. But if you listen to people who speak here, you will think that nothing is wrong. They are not even acknowledging the fact that they are now in their 30s in Gauteng. They are going to be in their 20s very soon. The Commander-in-Chief of the EFF is in Gauteng to attend to a case that was brought by a racist organization, AfriForum, to defend a song which was a battle cry to defeat the colonial and apartheid racist system in its entirety. And I'm sure that we will do that successfully. We are meeting here in the City Hall because Parliament was bent down due to the negligence of the state. And I think we must then treat this with, there's a silver lining that says that let us take this opportunity to relocate Parliament to a central place, to one capital city. Because the location of this parliament, we all know, is a result of a colonial pact of white men only, who, when they were trying to share power amongst themselves, they said that the 4 colonies must have capital cities, with Orange River Colony having the judicial capital, Transvaal administrative capital, the Cape, was still here more than 100 years later because of a colonial pact. Let us discontinue that as part of the decolonization project that we must then engage in. What this SONA debate has revealed over the past 2 days is that in the liberation movement, the former liberation movement, you have got a lot of opportunists, careerists, intellectually incapable and dishonest members of parliament, both old and young. We have seen a lot of people come here to blow hot air and even try to contextualize things that were not said here. Of course, although it has been withdrawn, we are not going to entertain the childish accusations that were made against the Commander-in-Chief about the plot to remove a certain minister. But also, how do you as a minister come and badmouth your commissioner of police, whatever personal differences you have, and then you still expect society to have faith in the police system, where in parliament you have got a minister who openly does that in press conferences, and then he repeats gossip as if it's intelligence. If we were to do that as well, we're going to spread gossip here and say that there are ministers who hire Nkabis to kill members of parliament who are about to expose them of corruption. We are not going to do it today. We'll do it once we've gathered proper facts. We're going to give a critical analysis of the State of Nation address, which was themed around building a new consensus, which in any way the president said is not concluded. He said, amongst other things, that within the next 100 days, the social partners are going to finalize a comprehensive compact, which is going to grow the economy, create jobs, and combat hunger. That is what he said. And then he said something which is not true. Then he said that we all know that government does not create jobs, business creates jobs. That is conceptually and empirically false. So the correct statement should have read like this, that we all know that the ANC government will not and does not intend to create jobs and will depend on white businesses to create jobs. It is empirically, like, it's even from a basic logic point of view. You can't say government does not create jobs. You have got 1 million government employees. Those jobs were created to deliver certain services. You are trying to create lousy jobs called EPWPs. Those are jobs, so it's factually incorrect. And you come here to try to justify it. But the most shocking thing that I got to realize here is that on the 11th of February, the South African Careerist Party, the SACP, issued a statement to say that the president must withdraw an assertion that government does not create jobs. It is fatally flawed. But we had members here, Masondo, Mantashe, Tulas, everyone else, they never even repeated that in their own characterization. That is a fatal error. To say it's fundamentally wrong to even suppose that, to show that they even try to ascribe a developmental state and defend a developmental state to a president who never spoke about a developmental state. It's one of the things that we then have to deal with much more differently. Now let's deal with some of the factual issues. One is that currently the fastest growing economy in the world is Chinese economy, the People's Republic of China. And it's led by a communist party. It's centrally planned. The state plays a significant role in the creation of jobs and development of the productive forces. More than 133 big corporations in the world, Global 500, are Chinese companies, and more than 100 of those are state-owned by the Chinese People's Republic of China in terms of what gets to happen. And China has elevated poverty of more than 800 million people under capable state leadership, which someone comes with a philosophical confusion here to say the state does not create job, business does. The attempt by the principal of the ANC school, someone said it's a principal of an ANC school here. He was trying to misascribe the state which does not create job to a developmental state. It's not the fact. Like, the state that is South Africa is a bourgeois, neo-colonial, neoliberal state. That is what it is. What we need, a developmental state is not a bourgeois state. So a proper characterization of a bourgeois, neoliberal state is a state which Karl Marx says manages the common affairs of the whole bourgeoisie. That is the role of this state. That is why you say, you admit here that you cannot create jobs, meaning that you cannot develop the productive forces. There are so many things that we can mention in terms of the progress that have been made in Singapore, that have been made in many parts of the developmental state, not bourgeois states, that were state-led, and at the center of that was state leadership and guidance in terms of what happens. Now, also, like this mentioning of infrastructure, this and that and that. Last week, the president of the ANC was in a village in Limpopo to open a pavement of a road. Whilst we always say that there must be infrastructure programs. I want to give you an example of what infrastructure programs are happening in the entire continent. In Kenya, they've just completed the 570 kilometer standard gauge railway project. In Tanzania, they're going to complete between Morogoro and Dar es Salaam an SGR project as well, which is going to span more than 1,500 kilometers. And that is building, of course, on Tazara, which was built under Chairman Mao's guidance between 1970 and 1975, which is a railway project between Zambia and Dar es Salaam. In Ethiopia, they've completed a railway project which is between Addis Ababa and the neighboring country of Djibouti in terms of what happens. And in addition to completion of a $50 billion city, new capital city in Egypt, they are also establishing a Suez Canal special economic zone, which is going to employ millions of people in terms of what happens. There are so many proper projects that are happening in the continent that are seeking to build the intercontinental infrastructure to link the entire continent. It's part of what Agenda 2063 says should be the flagship programs of the African Union, of what has to be done to interconnect the entire continent with railway projects, not pavements. Not 40-kilometer pavements, which is not even concluded in terms of what happens. Let's maybe give you a simple project which have been failing to fulfill since many years ago. So in 1994, former Minister of Defense Joe Modise handed over a landing strip in the northern part of Kruger National Park to the Minga dynasty. That landing strip has got potential to be turned into a commercial opportunity, into an opportunity that can turn the northern part of Kruger National Park into a tourism hub. Hosi Minga, Hosi Shilungwa Minga, Wabumbiri has been pleading with the Sun Parks and different agencies to say that let us convert that landing strip into a proper commercial international airport and receive tourists there and have activities that is going to empower a lot of our people. In the same way, the strategic role is being played by the Kruger National Park Mpumalanga tourism corridor. And none of those things have been done in terms of what happens. We have spoken about this. I think we have illustrated enough. It's basic logic. It's not true that the state does not create jobs. It's not true that the state does not lead development, productive forces. In actual scientific terms, you must go home and study this or ask your researchers, ask everyone. There is no nation in the world in the past 40 years that has rapidly developed its productive forces without state decisive leadership. Neoliberalism has never worked. To say that you must have an invisible hand that drives the economy and the market, it doesn't work anywhere. It is collapsing. Even the World Economic Forum has admitted that this invisible hand is not there. All the economies that have caught up now had clear, decisive state leadership, and to want to disassociate the state from the people is not a proper philosophical, ideological system and approach. It has to be changed. And we must also say that because it's factually incorrect, these ones of the DA can repeat that it's an ideological commitment. But this one who spoke here on Thursday is a president of the Republic. He's going to repeat that in front of people elsewhere. They will think all of us agree to that. So he must never ever repeat that thing anyway. Because it's factually incorrect. People are going to say that it means that the people of South Africa are not literate. How can the whole country say? Because he says, we all know that government does not create jobs. He will go and repeat that in a BRICS forum. Then they will say, this is pure madness. They will say, this is pure foolishness. That is how we're going to be characterized, because these people have experienced the real hand of the state in driving development, in driving the productive forces. But all of these things will only happen once we have defeated the ANC. We're making progress now. We have to remove the ANC from power. The future does not have space for both the ANC and the EFF. And one must die. It has to be the ANC. It has to be the ANC. It has outlived its purposefulness. It doesn't know whether it's a liberation movement or what. It doesn't know what it stands for. This nonsense that the economy is going to be grown by the private sector was superimposed by President Mandela when he introduced gear. Unemployment was 16% in 1996. It's 34% now. As Gisa, you said that let's just accelerate growth. Maybe there will be some jobs and redistribution happening. It never happened. New growth path, NDP, all of those things. What you're basically doing is to see that we've got a crisis in your family, that there is a food item which has got poison. You continue to give the food poison, people are dying, and then you think the solution is to add more and more poison. This neoliberal conviction, it's madness. It must come to an end. You must study properly what has led to the development of all the countries, of all the economies that got to caught up with the countries that got to industrialize first. It is not neoliberalism. It is not the invisible hand of the state. It's a state that is decisive, that intervenes on the direction of the economy. It's a state that determines the form, the content, the nature, the direction of what development must take. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Honorable Member. Honorable the Minister of Justice and Correctional Services.
The Honorable President of the Republic, His Excellency Cyril Ramaphosa, the Honorable Deputy President, His Excellency David Mabuza, the Deputy Speaker, Honorable members, and everyone in the House. The relationship between the National Democratic State and all private capital, including monopoly capital, is one of unity and struggle, cooperation and contestation. That is the strategy and tactic of the ANC that the President quoted when he was here delivering his State of the Nation address. What Honorable Sibambo has just said is the distortion of the highest level of the conceptualization of the role of the state in the economy by Honorable Sibambo. The President was very clear about the role of the state in helping creating jobs and also in helping for the creation and also for economic growth. What Honorable Sibambo has said about China, China has got socialism with Chinese characteristics. And the Chinese characteristics allow for private sector direct investment into the economy in China. In Singapore was also built by also the state allowing the private sector to invest and also international direct investment in Singapore. There was a role of the state, but there was also a role of the private sector. It's a complete distortion by Honorable Shibambo to say that it was only the hand of the state. Even in China, as we speak today, the big corporations in China, Alibaba and many more, are private sector corporations which also accept foreign direct investment. This started during the period of Deng Xiaoping, the opening up in China. So there cannot be a distortion, moving away and breaking away from the cultural revolution of Mao Zedong in China. So Honorable Shibambo must not distort the economic trajectory of the People's Republic of China. And this happened in all the Asian Tigers countries. Singapore, South Korea, and all of them. There is no country today that does not operate allowing foreign direct investment, also allowing the private sector to play a role in the economy. And that is what the president of the ANC said here by speaking about a mixed economy and the role of the state in that mixed economy. I want to come, Honorable Speaker, to the reality of conceptualization of us having a consensus as a country. And I want to call
Honorable Minister, just hold on, take a seat. What are you raising on, Honorable Member?
Honorable Speaker, can I ask a question
Okay,
to the Honorable Minister about the role of the state in creating jobs? Okay, sorry.
Honorable Minister, will you take a question?
No, Honorable
I knew it.
I'm not shocked of poor Josie, Honorable Speaker. The Supreme Leader has taken all the minutes. The only thing he can do is to disrupt the speakers. That is his only chance of speaking. Honorable Speaker, I want to quote from the former President of the Republic, Nelson Mandela, when he spoke about the role of the state and the Constitution. The authority of government comes from the people through the Constitution. Your tasks and responsibilities as well as your power come to you from the people through the Constitution. The people speak through the Constitution. The Constitution enables the multiple voices of the people to be heard in an organized, articulate, and a meaningful and a principled manner. I will dare add, attacks against the Constitution disguised through revolutionary sounding phrases remain counter-revolutionary. They are against the people. It is a language aimed to replace the people institutions with a personality cult such as the Supreme Leader of the EFF, where only one person thinks, speaks, and acts on behalf of the entire organization. He now wants to act on behalf of the whole nation. We must not allow that as South Africans. The struggle is about the people. This, Mr. President, will be our war cry as the battle soul for our country. And we are armed with an incredible instrument, the Constitution, which is a culmination of battles and legions of South Africans of all races, Africans and the world at large. Our commitment to constitutionalism is a product of the blood and sweat of our fallen heroes. From the 1912, the African claims ready to govern, the Women's Charter, and all documents. The ANC has emphasized the role of the people, the role of the state in the economy, and the role of government in ensuring that the people participate in the governance of their country. A decade later, we are still standing on our constitutional principles. The Democratic Alliance cannot want to claim to be more constitutionalist than the ANC, because our founding fathers are the ones who taught us about the Constitution. The ANC is an organization deeply embedded in constitutionalism. Honorable Steinhazen and Mazuni, they are new to these issues. We have always stood against the immoral nature of apartheid and replaced it with constitutionalism. Constitutionalism proclaims the desirability of the rule of law as opposed to rule by arbitrary judgment or mere declaration of public officials. It's a role we are continuing to play in this country to ensure and give all South Africans a right to participate in the governance of this country. Hence, they are also able to come here in this podium and speaks a lot of things that do not relate to the building of a better South Africa, as Honorable Shivambu was doing now. Our Constitution is a transformative document aimed at changing the character and the nature of our economy for the people, for the benefit of the people as a whole, and to build social cohesion, and also to ensure that everyone plays a role in building the society that we envisage through the Freedom Charter. I know the Honorable Deputy Speaker that the National Prosecuting Authority is breaking the shackles which constrain it. Despite capacity challenges and budget constraints, our law enforcement and criminal justice agencies have achieved noteworthy successes. To strengthen the capacity of the National Prosecuting Authority, we will be implementing sections of the Reconstruction and Development Program Funding Act. Furthermore, to strengthen the human capital of the NPA, we will continue to invoke Section 13 NPA Act, which enables the NPA to acquire the services of persons who have suitable qualifications and experience to perform services in specific cases. The NPA is also prioritizing appointments at senior level. This process will be concluded speedily. The Fusion Center, established by a government to bring together the key law enforcement agencies to strengthen the collective effort to prevent, detect, investigate, and prosecute COVID-19 related corruption, has enrolled 45 cases in court, with 101 accused facing charges as of January 2022. 16 of these cases have been finalized with guilty verdict. To say nothing has happened, Honorable Steenhuisen, is to mislead the nation. The NPA Asset Forfeiture Unit has recovered 168 million rands on COVID-19 related matters. The special tribunal announced by the President Ramaphosa in 2019 has recovered 500 million through preservation, review, and setting aside orders. The NPA Investigative Directorate is seized with 37 high-profile state capture cases, with 14 matters enrolled in court relating to the various sectors it is focused on. In the next month, the Investigative Directorate will be enrolling additional 3 seminal matters. In terms of asset forfeiture, the Gauteng High Court granted an order to seize assets worth 1.4 billion rands belonging to accused implicating in the corruption scandal involving the construction of Eskom Kusile Power Station. In the Bloemfontein High Court, the NPA has been granted an unlimited restraint order to the value of 520 million rands for assets in relation to various Gupta-linked companies. Honorable Madwa, you will now see that the President is serious about the fight against corruption. He is not a shapeless amoeba, nor a jellyfish. Indaba yethu straight ayifuni ruler. Siyaphambili. A preservation order was filed by the NPA for the Opnam mine estimated at 8 billion rands. This is on the back of 870 million rands and 1.1 billion rands recovered from Mackenzie and Company for their involvement in the Transnet saga. 217 million rands has been recovered from Bain and Company, and the SIU has recovered over 1.5 billion rands from ABB South Africa. You will also realize that these are big multilateral companies. There is no holy cow. The NPA is going after everyone to bring back the money into the fiscus. We have also seen that our capacity to address white-collar crime is on the rise. This, among others, is demonstrated by the prosecution of fraud amounting to 3.5 billion rands in the Togati matter, which is laudable. There has been criticism that the NPA does not deal with white-collar crime, including the hawks. 3.5 billion rands is a matter before our courts as we speak. Steenhoff remains on the radar of law enforcement agencies, and I know that soon they will be able to update the nation as to how far they are on the matter of Steenhoff. A total of 5,451 sexual offences cases were finalized with a verdict, and 4,098 convictions were obtained. This represents a conviction rate of 75.2%, of the highest conviction rate achieved in the past 5 years. The President's commitment to fight against gender-based violence and sexual offences, it is real. It is taking root in our court and our criminal justice system. So what the president has said here is real, it is in action, and it is also a reflection in terms of these convictions that social compacts work. Government alone cannot be able to succeed to fight crime. We need all sectors of society, civil society, NGOs, and everyone. And we want to thank the role that was played by civil society in the 3 GBV bills. We also want to state that access to justice is increasing under President Ramaphosa. Legal Aid South Africa will soon, from the 1st of March this year, be implementing a program to deal with evictions against farm workers across the country. A farm worker will be able to have a lawyer hand in hand to be able to go to any court in this country to defend themselves on issues of evictions by farm owners across this country. This is to broaden the role of access to justice. Honorable Malema referred to the Toyando management area, popularly known as Mataji, where he claimed correctional services was procuring items from Polokwane at the expense of local businesses. We want to assure South Africans that through the self-sufficiency model, inmates are producing their own food across management areas. As a result, correctional services no longer procures items such as eggs and pork. Toyando management area in the current financial year, through offender labor, produces fruits, vegetables, beef, pork for inmates, in relation to resulting to huge savings for the fiscus. Where we need to procure items which we do not internally produce enough quantities, we always prioritize local businesses. And insinuations suggesting otherwise by Honorable Malema, the Supreme Leader of the EFF, is a display of lack of knowledge and highest level of ignorance. Correctional services will, through the self-sufficiency strategic model, continue to providing skills to inmates and empower the victims of crimes. With regards to infrastructure, it is not correct that the President only delivers infrastructure with regards to paving. But paving is important, particularly with regards to rural routes. But the President has delivered infrastructure in many parts of this country. If you look at the streets in KwaZulu-Natal as we speak today, nice ring roads that are moving in the city of eThekwini. This has been the work of this government, and we continue to deliver reliable infrastructure across the country. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much. Honorable Sarupen.
Thank you, Deputy Speaker. Deputy Speaker, this was an utterly bizarre 2 days. And I say that because if the theme of the President's address was courage for reform, then the ANC speakers missed the memo, because their theme was Alice in Wonderland. According to what we heard from the ANC in this debate, the education system is fine, the roads are all fine, the police system is working, everyone has water and energy, government projects are delivered on time and world-class standards, and the state captures have been dealt with. And these out-of-touch ministers and MPs clearly don't understand what's going on in the real South Africa, because outside of the ANC's wonderland, the state captures are not being dealt with. The Guptas are in Dubai, not behind bars. Let's start there. The roads are littered with potholes, people go for days without water, the cost of living is rising, and corrupt, inefficient state officials demand bribes for simple things like renewing driver's licenses, assuming that the machine works. In the sale of ANC in Wonderland, we heard ANC ministers and members contradict themselves and each other and the President effortlessly without a hint of irony. We saw this effortless contradiction when Minister Mantashe started by calling the DA right-wing, and then he quoted Chris Hart and the IRR to justify his policies, positioning himself to the right of a party he calls right-wing. And then moments later, Honourable Frolic came up with a very sensible speech about climate change and a just and transition, as if his own minister didn't just effectively declare that the ANC's policy is to burn every fossil fuel in sight. Only an ANC in Wonderland can do this. We saw contortions and verbal gymnastics when the education minister came up here and quoted the NDP and then the New Growth Path as though these documents don't contradict each other, and then a great sense of irony told us that her education system is doing fine, despite the fact that by every measure and outcomes, it is considered one of the world's worst education systems. Only an ANC in Wonderland can do this. And in this debate, we saw from the ANC side that the blades were not sharp and the tigers did not roar. We saw effortless contradiction again and again when ANC speaker after ANC speaker contorted or walked back the president's assertion that the state creates an enabling environment, but government creates jobs. And I've never seen this much contortion before. People pivoted to a mixed economy on one side. One ANC member, even despite the president saying this, stood at this podium today and said the state must own the means of production. I quote that verbatim. This is the antithesis of an enabling environment. Only an ANC in Wonderland can do this. The less said by the Minister of Communications, the better. We just hope she doesn't offer Denel the same, we'd hope she doesn't offer SABC the same services as Denel. We'll just leave it at that. But the president's statement itself was bold. And it's clear that his ministers and MPs will never let it become policy. They've taken to online platforms and newspapers to condemn their own president. Some of them call themselves the RET grouping, but there's nothing radical about the RET policies. If you want to see the outcome, they've been tried. Go to and visit the S0NA dairy farm. It was great that we had the Premier of the Free State up here. Maybe she can give you a tour. And there are 2 volumes of a judicial inquiry into state capture that shows us exactly what the consequences of RET policy are. And when the president told us in his address that there was a criminal syndicate that had infiltrated the state to engage in state capture, he forgot to tell us that they were all ANC members, mostly in the RET faction, and that this network included his predecessor. And there were 2 key ANC policies that enabled state capture that the DA has comprehensively demolished in this debate: BEE and cadre deployment. BEE is an innocuous-sounding policy, but its real intention is to use race to enrich ANC members using government contracts. Cadre deployment ensures that you stick party members onto the tender committees and tell them who the tenders go to. That's a corrupt network and system right there. And this president is serious about dismantling this corrupt network. He needs to dismantle these policies. But we see that these RET faction folk want to continue with this, and as I said, their policy is not radical. They're old, outmoded, and deeply conservative. They were tried in the 1960s and have been rejected the world over. And so I think the president made his statement in order to shore up economic confidence and tell investors that his own party has turned the book on ideas that collapsed with the Berlin Wall. But he cannot move because he cannot dismiss cabinet members who attack the judiciary. He doesn't dismiss members who failed to coordinate the response to the July riots, and he doesn't dismiss ministers who failed to gazette his own energy proposals year in and year out. So how can we trust that all of this will happen when we need an enabling environment that has world-class infrastructure, but you've got a Minister of Public Works that builds a washing line for a border fence? We need clear, simple, flexible labor legislation for the enabling environment, but you can't do that with a Minister of Labor who believes that a swimming pool is a fire pool. You cannot sort out SOEs when you've got a Minister of Public Enterprises who has such contempt for Parliament that he stopped answering most questions. So with all these effortless contradictions and contortions, the president is stuck. He's got a moribund party, and that is why we are going to help him remove his cabinet in order to get this country moving forward again. Thank you.
Thank you. Honorable Janchi.
Honorable Deputy Speaker, the President of the Republic and the Deputy President of the Republic, I salute. This year, as we celebrate the 25th anniversary of the launch of our Constitution, it is important to reflect upon 3 key principles encapsulated in the preamble: nation building, social cohesion, and unity. These principles are critical for a social compact to rebuild, renew, and unite our country against the triple challenges of poverty, inequality, and unemployment. In a speech to the National Assembly, by former President, the then Deputy President, Honorable Thabo Mbeki, on the 29th of May 1998, he defined nation building as, and I quote, the construction of the reality and a sense of common nationhood, which will result from the abolition of disparities in the quality of life among South Africans based on racial, gender, and geographic inequalities we all inherited from the past. He further says, a major component part of nation building is defined by and derived from the material conditions in our society which have divided our country into two nations, one black and poor, the other rich and white. I'll say more about that in the context of the Western Cape. From the above, there is a very clear alignment between our constitutional values and the ANC's vision, which is to build a united, democratic, non-racial, non-sexist, national, democratic, and prosperous society. This alignment is not accidental. It emanates from historical ANC policies and principles of Pan-Africanism and human rights such as the Africans' Claim, the Freedom Charter, and the Harare Declaration. I complete this grounding about the importance of our Constitution with the candid words of our retired judge, Judge Albie Sachs, in a lecture delivered at UCT in 1991, titled Perfectibility and Corruptibility. And I quote, "We realized at the time that we needed protections against ourselves, against the tendencies of power, not only to marginalize the weak, but to corrupt the powerful. A nation that confronts itself, that questions more about what it is doing, how it is doing it, and why it is doing it, that learns by doing and learns from that experience is one that will develop and grow. The politically rich state of the nation addressed by the President has sparked rigorous debate and is a reflection that it was indeed the content of that address that the debate is acknowledged. We entered the debate speaking of a social compact, mindful of the fact that we don't all share the same perspective about it. What has been reaffirmed, though, by most speakers, is that we have a very serious socio-economic situation in this country, which requires us to unite and work together behind a plan and in a social compact to substantively address this situation. In the University of Life, a set of questions come back to those who claim they have definitive and absolute answer. On whose authority do you speak? Where do we find in what you say authority? And what does this authority add in dealing with the national contradictions we're facing? In a constitutional democracy, authority derives from the constitution of a country, that which brings us together. The intention of our constitution is to bring about social justice, social cohesion, and nation building. We have responsibility, therefore, to build a nation based on the Bill of Rights, and we have an equal responsibility to bring everyone into this cause to construct a country that we all want, to promote that which binds us together and rather than that which divides us. A new consensus based on what we broadly agree, which is the current conjuncture, is achievable and is within our grasp. As the President indicates, a consensus that is born out of common understanding of our current challenging situation and a recognition of the need to address the challenges of unemployment, poverty, and inequality. South Africa therefore needs a new consensus that embraces the understanding of the need to redistribute wealth and assets for the greater good of the nation, currently and in the future. It means dealing with the structure of the economy and ensuring far greater ability for the masses of the nation to acquire assets to sustain themselves. The implementation of economic structural reforms is not limited to the regulatory framework. Dedicated measures, many of which are in place, are required to support economic growth, support the businesses and cooperatives with a special focus on informal, survivalist, and micro-enterprise activity. In essence, the call for 2022 has 4 major interventions to which the social compact has to apply itself. And these are publicly funded employment, support to companies to increase private sector employment, support to enable productive livelihoods, and expanded social protection. These initiatives must result in a new national employment policy that supports the employment-centered framework and retains the employment standards that the ILO has credited us with. In other words, and this is where the challenge starts, interested parties seek to arrive at a social compact with conditionalities, and this is where progress will then begin to stall. Political and economic history is littered with good intentions, but an inability of the stakeholders to work together in the interest of the majority as they cling to their sectional interest. I raise this because unless we're honest and frank with how we at times are the biggest stumbling block to progress, we're destined to repeat same political and economic history mistakes. Today we have over 20 million people who either don't bother to register or vote, or don't exercise their right to vote. Fewer people vote than those who don't, and this should wake us up to a fundamental right in the Constitution that our people have decided to walk away from. As is the case in any country, the state must remain at the center and facilitate a new consensus and social compact. Consciously, opposition in this debate, both in the so-called pre-SONA briefings and the debate itself, have tried to drive a narrative that the center is the market and the private sector. Yes, some thought that a centralized office that will dictate to all, which is a typical of a Republican leadership style of insurrection against what you don't like. Both fail to appreciate that a compact is made out of people and it is they who must assist to shape its character. When we say people must be their own liberators, that's exactly what we mean. These are shared responsibilities that we have towards one another, and for the compact to succeed, it requires that we pull together. Our focus must be centered on dealing decisively with hunger, economic exclusion, poverty, unemployment, and inequality. As we build a new consensus and a social compact, the contradictions which are in themselves forces for change and development will confront us, firstly in the form of unresolved national question, the land question, and the consequences of the structure of the economy which drives an exclusionary pattern of reproduction. Our essential element is a common history, one of dispossession, struggle and liberation struggle, out of which a new nation emerged from the community of origins and community of cultures. We are a nation as a totality of peoples united by a common fate. In building the common consensus and social compact, it must be informed by progressive values that we find in our Constitution of non-racialism, non-sexism, respect for human rights, and democracy. It means defeating backward tendencies, narrow nationalism, racism, and patriarchy. What essentially distinguishes a nation from an ethnic group is its political dimension, which is most obvious in a national political movement. Hence, a nation is led, and it does not operate spontaneously, and in this regard, the state must lead. In nation building, we have to look past our ethnicity, and we must think to a higher form of consciousness. With regards to our particular role as Parliament, Comrade President, clearly, your message is one which will guide this government for the year. For Parliament in 2022, it's going to be a very extremely busy year for our constitutional responsibility in terms of oversight. The battalion of backbenchers of the ANC are ready to lead that oversight in a very progressive and vigorous manner. This is an opportunity that your opposition have missed because they came here to lament about oversight. Oversight, in our understanding, is not an opposition to the executive. Oversight is about ensuring that there's an impact. It is about following the money. It is also about making sure that we hold the executive through to its commitment. We have already started to do that as members of the ANC. I was surprised to listen to Honorable Khwarube lamenting about an ANC blocking oversight in favor of the executive. Quite clearly, she's got it wrong, because from where we're sitting, whether you go to the Justice Committee or Home Affairs and others, the ANC members are leading that discussion. Maybe the issue that I think we're going to need to deal with, I was just about to go there, because I am, as a citizen of this city, have experienced both oversight. I come from the Western Cape, where the DA will block any oversight to the executive. And when I came here as a member of the ruling party, I saw a backbencher of the ANC driving that oversight. Maybe the issue I need to go to now is to reflect and give you feedback as an opposition. For the whole day yesterday and today, what we have heard from the opposition are some of the following issues. They have spent time to tell us about death wishes, about obituary of the ANC, about divide and rule, about all sorts of issues. I want to take and start with the DA first. The DA makes the issue about the president having copy and paste their policy. Clearly what is happening there, this is the template of the DA, and it's not just about jealousy. It comes back in 2009. The issue that the DA is driving, it is driven by white supremacy mentality. That it is only them. It is only them that can do good things. Anything that is commendable, that is done by the ANC, they have to appropriate and claim it. And that also extends further, as an example, on the issue of cadre deployment. On the issue of cadre deployment, when it is done by them, it is a correct thing to do. When the ANC does it, it is wrong to do it. That is the DA for you. But also, if you take the issue of the DA in relation to what Comrade Thabo Mbeki explained about the two nations, I come from Khayelitsha. Since December 2021, what you had in Khayelitsha was a sewage that took 2 months to be fixed. Honorable S0NA is correct when he says, as a DA, they do. This is how they do it. They do it for the rich and the white. They don't do it for the people of Khayelitsha. What they want from Mitchell's Plain are black votes. They don't want to serve those communities. So he's correct when he makes that point, because when you compare in the same city, they've got two types of services. In Durbanville, a drain never blocks for a week. When you go to Khayelitsha, that issue happens. It happens here in the Western Cape. But also, they have developed and perfected what you call divide and rule. They are saying to us, RET members of the ANC must go. And we want to say to them, As the ANC, we speak here as one organization. You are not going to dictate to us what to do. You are not going to tell us which cabinet minister that we must reshuffle. But further than that, in the DA-led, and maybe this is how you do it, Honorable S0NA, on the issue of employment, you deal with interns and you mobilize that for sexual favors in this province. Honorable Albert Fred is one example that you are starting to hide, and yet you rise and say you are against GBV. Poor communities and children who are looking for employment get abused. You use your power to do those kind of things. One of the things that I think both yourself and the EFF have gone around getting excited about, you moving from the premise that the November elections is a victory to yourself. Just to quickly summarize that, the November elections, the DA declined and dropped. The EFF declined. The ANC in November, our voters stayed at home. They did not vote for the DA. They did not vote for the EFF. They've stayed at home and said to us, we're warning you, please fix these kind of issues. This S0NA is a beginning of us addressing that. You seem to have won the elections before the elections. In a way, Deputy Speaker,
what are you rising on, Honorable Member? Take your seat, Honorable Member on the podium.
Thanks.
Honorable Janchi, take your seat. Yes, what are you rising on?
No, Honorable Speaker, I wanted you to offer the Honorable Member water because it's dry. The EFF didn't decline at all.
Honorable Member.
Drink some water, man.
That's not a point of order.
It's
That's
very
not
tough.
a point of order.
You're supposed to sweep. Drink water.
Honorable
It's very
Member.
difficult.
No,
It's very tough. EFF didn't decline. That's a fact.
Go ahead, Honorable Member.
thank you very much, Honorable Deputy Speaker. Let me just conclude on the issue of unanswered questions and oversight, Honorable Kharube. This is a matter that we have attended in the Rules Committee before we close and rise in 2021, that this matter was concluded in the manner that gives a process that say for every quarter we're going to get a report. I don't know which ministers that you are talking about that have not answered questions, because we have not received that report that indicates to us that these are the ministers that are not. I think you're playing to the gallery in raising that particular issue. We are also leading that as members of the ANC. Thank you very much, Deputy Speaker.
Thank you very much. Honorable members, that concludes the speakers list. The President will reply to the debate tomorrow. The joint sitting is adjourned.
Recording stopped.